good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope everyone's having a good day so far. Today, Realmers, welcome back to another video. Today, I'm going to be going over one of the many playlists that I have on Spotify. In the last video, we went over all of the playlists, kind of what's in the playlist, what the playlists are about. Today, I want to go over Fantasy, which is basically the playlist of albums that I discovered or artists I discovered before a YouTube channel introduced me to a ton of like music, like pretty much metal stuff. Well, not metal, but like pop punk, a ton of different genres that I would not have discovered on my own. Kind of hard to explain. Basically, it's like a YouTube channel that reviews music. They help me discover a ton of bands, ton of artists, ton of music, just in general. So this playlist is everything I discovered on my own, and I kind of wanted to break it down, just kind of go through it all and talk about why that band or that artist spoke to me during this time. So I titled it 2020 because, not because this is when I discovered all these bands. This is over like a decade. So this is a decade of my picks and what I've listened to over the years. The reason I call it 2020 is because 2020 was the last year I stopped discovering music on my own. So completely, this is all on my own. And then like 2021 starts reality, which reality is discovering music through the help of others. So yeah, without further ado, let's dive into it. So the first band on the list here is Therefore Tomorrow. So Therefore Tomorrow, I would call them like, I keep thinking about it, I think it's pop rock is how I want to describe it, or just like hard rock, something like that. That's what the band really is about. At least I think that's what the band is about. That's what their sound sounds like. It's like hard rock, and it's got like pop vocals, and it's got a rock sound, I would say. I wouldn't even call it like pop punk or anything. Like maybe pop punk, but it doesn't sound like pop punk. It just sounds like pop rock. You know, you'd have to hear it, and I'm not gonna play it because I'll get DMCA'd and we'll all die. You know, that's how it happens. But this was actually the first band I discovered on my own. How I found them was I found them through a Nerf commercial, like, you know, the Nerf guns. That's how I discovered this band, and it was crazy because the first song I found from them was A Little Faster, and that's how I found this album. Every song on here is a banger, okay? Every song smacks, dude. Like, every single song, it's crazy how good it is. Like, every single thing. I will play this on repeat. Every song's good. And there's even, like, there's softer songs on this album. Like, there's Burn the Night Away, I Can't Decide, and I think those are the only like two soft ones. Just in Time might be another one. There's a lot of soft rock songs on here that you can tell like this is pop rock. That's how I describe it. But anyway, that's how I discovered this band. We're gonna get into them a little bit later because we got to talk about them more, because there is another I would say EP that's on this from them, but we'll get into that later. Krewella. So this is how I kind of first got into EDM, electronic dance music, for, you know, those who don't know what that means. But I think for a lot of people, like, it was either Krewella or Skrillex. It was something that got them into EDM. Krewella was it for me. This was like the first like album that I was like, okay, now I'm kind of hooked on the EDM side of things. And it was great. Like, this album was great. Now, Krewella, after this album, the only, to me, like, I've stopped listening to them since, because they only released good singles after Rain Man left, and I just, I think, like, towards when they started releasing their new albums after Get Wet, I just stopped listening to that music because it wasn't for me. But yeah, I feel like they hit their peak at this album, sadly, which sucks because I did really like their sound. But yeah, that's that. This is how I first got into EDM, and I kind of expand on that going forward. But yeah, and I didn't know where I placed the EP, but we'll talk about it now. So, Therefore Tomorrow dropped their last EP, not an album, EP, in 2014. That was, so for timeline wise, Get Wet, we'll click on it. 2013. I did these all in order, so this was 2010. But it was, I think the first album was 2009. I did all these in year of order, so that's why like the last sort of albums go at 2020. But yeah, so this EP came out in 2014. This was like my sophomore year of high school, when I was just like, when I was in the almost like I was almost there, almost done with high school, but kind of done, but not really. Anyway, so this EP came out, and I didn't realize it until I looked it up, because like I think like my most listened to songs in this EP were Racing Blood and Dark Purple Sky, because they're so good. But when this EP came out, I didn't realize this was going to be the last thing they released, because the band broke up, basically. I guess like there were some members in the band that didn't have the drive to do it anymore. What sucked, though, is the band broke up. I really liked A Little Faster. They also had an album called The Verge, which I didn't listen to, but I wanted to, like, I went back and listened to it. It had some pretty good songs on there. But yeah, so this EP, I think, I don't know if it's like, it might be copyright free. I'm not sure. I haven't looked into it. But yeah, so they broke up, and then funny enough, the singer and the drummer actually started a duo project together called After Hours, and then that broke up. That was done, and then the singer went off to do his own thing. So it really sucks that this band broke up. I wish they would have kept making music, because I think now they would have killed it. But yeah, that's that. Moving on from that, we get into the indie music, as we'll call it. We'll call it the indie music, because it's, I don't know what to call Eden. His genre is very, it's got EDM vibes to it, but it's more like I would almost say indie rock, but I don't think that's the right term. Eden's music is hard to describe, but it's really good. It smacks, you know? It's good. Like, I discovered Eden and then another artist, which we will get into at the same time. But like his first, like these first two albums, or I don't know if we can call these albums. I think we'll call them EPs, because that's what they are. But they were so good. Like every song on these, I think like even like everything on these are good. There's nothing bad about any of these. I can't really describe Eden other than like it's a mix of like indie rock mixed with a little bit of EDM. I think is the best way to describe it. It's hard to describe, because he's got guitar driven music, which is like acoustic guitar and guitar driven music the most. He's also got some EDM things, like techno things thrown in there. Very hard to describe, but he's a very good artist. But we'll get into him in a little bit later. Next up on the list, Normandy. So I discovered Normandy, and by the way, I have this album right here. Funny enough, I thought I'd show it because it is signed by the three members of the band. I discovered Normandy in 2016. This was like when Overwatch was out, and I played Overwatch, and one of their songs, I believe it was Collide, I played that so much. That's like my favorite, like I think I would say all-time favorite song from them, because it's solid. It's just good. There's nothing else I can say about it. It's just good. But every song on this album is great. Like, so good. I don't know, I think... Okay, so Pay for This and Ghost are on this album, but that's fine. I didn't get the deluxe. I don't believe I did anyway. I can check the site, but I can check. But yeah, so Normandy I discovered in 2016 just on my own, funny enough. To me that's crazy. But like still, like, they're a great band, and this was technically, like, you can't even call, like, I guess Therefore Tomorrow could have been my intro to, like, rock music, but Normandy was like my intro to metal, and I didn't even know it. I didn't even know it at the time, which is, it's funny to me. It's just really, really funny. So, yeah, Normandy. Really, really good band. They're like, I would say, I don't want to call them metal. I feel like it's hard rock. I do feel like it's hard rock. Like, there are screams in their music, but I wouldn't call them metal. I don't know. Could you call them metal? You might be able to. I still think it's like hard rock. I don't know. But moving on to Mako. So this was another introduction to like EDM, like a different side of EDM, because Cruella compared to Mako is very different. Very, very different, because like Way Back Home was like the first song I heard from him, and it was and same thing with like Our Story. So many like these two songs were like anthems to me for like EDM music, and I loved it so much. It was great. It's fantastic. But yeah, this entire album was great, and I'm glad like I got introduced to more epic anthem type EDM sounds, because it slapped so much. So for the most part, Mako's EDM. There was another album where he tries different stuff, which we are going to talk about, but let's keep going. Okay, so Our Last Night. This is like an EP, I would say, not really an album per se, but Our Last Night I got into early, like 2014, probably around when Therefore Tomorrow broke up, or 2015. No, it was 2015, because I swear to God, like high school was like the prime time for me to discover music. Same thing with like middle school, but middle school was harder because I didn't have access to like a lot of technology and a lot of ways to listen to music. But high school was definitely the time where I could listen to a ton. I discovered Our Last Night off their covers. They don't just make covers though, which I started picking up on when they started releasing original stuff, which I didn't listen to originally. I kind of brushed it off like, oh, I don't know what that is. That doesn't look like a cover. And I started to like dive into them more. I'm like, oh, they do more than covers. So I really love their original stuff more than their covers. Their covers, to me, I throw them in the playlist because they're always good. You know, I don't just like, I feel like the way I describe it, I feel like I appreciate their originals more than their covers. Like, their covers are always good, but their originals I try to appreciate more because they're original and this is what they actually work on. And I feel like their covers are just like, they know how to write that. They can just do it and it'll be good, and I'll just add to a playlist. But I appreciate their covers a lot more. Like Caught in the Storm is really good. Ghost in the Machine I really like. Free Radicals, Broken Lives, Tongue Tied. There's so many good songs on this EP. There's a ton of them. They're all good. Their music is just always solid. There's nothing bad about the band. They're just really good. And I think hard rock is another way to describe them too. I don't think you can really call like Our Last Night metal. You can. They use like, there's metal influences in their music, but I would refer to them as hard rock. But yeah, that's that. Let's keep going. So, is it going to be okay? So Illenium. So Illenium, I discovered like, I didn't discover Illenium until Awake, I would say, because Awake came out in 2017. This was like end of high school. I discovered Illenium super late. Unfortunately, I didn't get into Illenium super quickly. I think like it was same time around like when Overwatch was out. This is when I was discovering like all of these songs, and this is like my favorite album of all time from Illenium. It's just a great album. It's fantastic. It's phenomenal. You know, it's great. There's nothing bad about it. Illenium is like, I think someone described it as like, it's EDM, but it's like melodic EDM, which was a completely new genre to me because I had heard Cruella. Cruella was like dubstep, trap, I would say. Not trap, but like I would say dubstep. And Mako was like epic EDM anthems with a phenomenal voice. And then Illenium's completely different because, you know, he gets all these vocalists on here, and then also his music is just like, it's also anthem music at the same time, but it's also melodic EDM and dubstep and all that, and it's great. It's fantastic. yeah, just I love his sound. It's great, and I still like his music even today. Again, we're gonna get into it, but there's some artists that I've just like, okay, well we're done here. You know, we're done. We're done. We don't need this anymore. But yeah, let's keep going. So the Chainsmokers, not a duo that I fell in love with immediately, I would say. It did take, like, I think this came out in 2017. Yes. So this album, like, I didn't really, when I heard of the Chainsmokers, like, they had done, like, I know they had done singles before this album. Wasn't into them. Like, I heard the name and I saw, like, I think it was like Selfie, I think was the song. I was like, this looks like a joke. You know, that's what I thought at first. And I heard every song on this album and I loved it. Like, this was just a great album all the way through. Like, I think my favorites, if I had to pick a couple, Young, Honest Paris, Something Just Like This, and I think the one in Break Up Every Night. There's just so many good songs on it, but it's just a great album. And I think the Chainsmokers have been releasing banger after banger every like year they were dropping these albums. And we'll get into that as well. But I think their most recent album that came out, which I forgot what it was called, came out last year, but I didn't really like it compared to their other stuff. It was good, but like it wasn't this, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But let's keep going. So Ed Sheeran, again, this was an album that, like, I think even when this came out, I didn't know who Ed Sheeran was. I had no idea. I think, like, Castle on the Hill got suggested to me through YouTube at the time, and I was kind of like, I'll check it out. Favorite song of all time from Ed Sheeran. Like, and I think there was another one on here. It was probably Shape of You, but the thing is with this album, I listened to it so much in 2017 because that's when this came out. It was like my senior year, 2017. This was when I was discovering these artists, like, because that was my senior year of high school, and it was like peak. But I listened to this so much that I got annoyed with the album. But that was when I was 18, so I wasn't open to all this sort of music. And then I started listening to this again. I love this album. It doesn't get old anymore. But I love everything on this album. And I still listen to Ed Sheeran nowadays. Like, I even went back and added his older stuff and his new stuff, Subtract, and the album he dropped from 2021. But yeah, just, this is a phenomenal album, like, start to finish. It's just so good. It's really solid. Like, I think Galway Girl, Shape of You, Castle on the Hill, Eraser. There's so many good ones on here. But yeah, that's Ed Sheeran. I like, in terms of, like, describing what their sound is, I forgot to mention even Chainsmokers. Chainsmokers is like, I would say they're chill EDM. I think that's how I describe them, like chill step, if you will. But Ed Sheeran is like acoustic, pop-driven music. Like that acoustic guitar, pop-driven piano music. That's how I describe it. That's the best way to describe Ed Sheeran, but phenomenal artist. And again, I want to mention this. If you haven't seen the Sum of It All, which is like on Disney Plus, it's like a Ed Sheeran documentary. Go watch it because it really, like, dives in on Ed and his life, and it's great. It's phenomenal. So the next album from Normandy. This is another banger, and again, I haven't gotten a chance to, like, throw this in the car, but again, I have a signed album, which is great because it's a phenomenal album. It's got so many more songs than, I don't know if it's got the same amount, because I think this has 10. Yeah, this one has 10, and then this one has 12, I think, if I counted correctly. I probably did. Or yeah, I counted it correctly. But yeah, 12 songs on it, which I think they even said in an interview, like, that was a bit much. It was way too much for an album. But yeah, this is like it. They drop bangers every time. Like, nothing is a skip here. You know, everything's good. I think if I had to, there's so many songs on this. It's hard to pick like a top. Um, yeah, there's way too many. I can't pick a favorite. They're all good, dude. They're all good. And again, Normandy's like hard rock, but they do have like, I think just like our last night, they have metal influences in their music. But yeah, so again, moving on to Eden. So Eden again, this was an official album. This was really good. Like there's a lot of good songs in here, like Falling in Reverse, Crash, Take Care, Wings. There's a lot of good ones. Even Gold was really good. This was very different. Like it was almost like not completely different, but it was a departure from like almost a departure from his previous EPs. So, but yeah, this is a really great album from start to finish. But yeah, let's keep going. Again, the Chainsmokers. So this is another like banger of an album. Like I think Somebody, This Feeling, Everybody Hates Me, You Owe Me. So many good songs on this album, and then they were even better when they got done as remixes. Like I think that was the case for like a lot of their songs when they got remixed. Like I loved the remixes of a lot of the stuff. And then we'll go deeper into that with another album, but yeah, the remixes are great, and then the whole album's just good. It's phenomenal. All right, and getting into Illenium once again, I would say like this album itself it's just really solid. It's just another, like there's a lot of good songs on this, like a ton, which is crazy. It's just crazy. Like Sad Songs, I think is probably one of my favorites on here. Crashing, Take You Down, and then Good Things Fall Apart is just really solid. There's a lot of good, like Illenium just, I think every year he cranks out really, really solid tracks and really good music. And then again, we're gonna move on, but the same thing with the Chainsmokers, right? They this was probably, I don't know if it was my favorite overall, compared to like the other two, but like Take Away, Call You Mine, Do You Mean, Push My Luck, Kills You Slowly, Who Do You, I think like, dude, mine is probably these four. I think this was like a top album for me, but this is kind of where like I ended listening to Chainsmokers. Like their new album that came out, it was good, but like it didn't hit me the same way all the others did, you know. I mean that's probably gonna be the same way with a lot of albums, but yeah, let's keep going. So NF, so this is a new one. So NF is a clean rapper. I discovered NF. It had to have been 2019. I think it was 2020 though, because I only listened to a couple of songs off this album. I think Time, Returns, When I Grow Up. It was only a couple off this album because I didn't look into NF fully until probably 2021, 2022. I didn't look into him fully, which sucks because he's a great rapper and he's a really good artist. He's the only rapper like I actually listen to, funny enough. Like the only rapper I listen to. Like the hat I'm wearing, I have another one, but nice. It says Hope on it. Yeah, there you go. Hope. So I have like a couple of NF hats. But yeah, he's a really great artist. Just 10 out of 10. Everything he drops is just like, it's great. Everything's a banger. Everything's good. This album's just huge, by the way. It's just massive, but there's so many good songs on it. So anyway, moving on. Let's keep going. So our last night, again, this album, they basically made 2 EPs, and then during 2020 when this came out, they basically combined the 2 EPs into one. They made Light Overcome the Darkness, and I think it was the first EP was Let Light Overcome, and then the second EP was Overcome the Darkness, and then they just combined it, which I don't know if that was their plan originally, but it really worked out. Like everything on this album is great. phenomenal. It's just good. Like I said, they don't make bad songs. They cannot make a bad song. That's how it goes. But yeah, 2020 was kind of like, so NF is 2019. We're now getting into the 2020, kind of the end of this playlist. Let's get into it. So the Word Alive. I found the Word Alive, funny enough, I found the Word Alive through Our Last Night. And Monomania, I guess this was my first introduction to metal. Which was crazy to think, because like I had been listening to like Normandy, Our Last Night, Therefore Tomorrow, all these like different influence of like not all the way metal, but like close to it, and then I finally get to a metal band. Which to me, I'm shocked I even found this band. It was just like through a cover I think Our Last Night did, and the vocalist featured on it. This album, banger. It's just, from start to finish, dude. There is no bad song on this album. I just remember playing it on repeat like crazy. It's just so good. I can't even pick a favorite because there's just so many good songs on here. I think Greatest Almost is pretty good. Maybe Burning Your World Down, but there's so many good songs on this. Again, just all bangers, just like kind of like Our Last Night, but like my first introduction to metal was a good one. It was such a good one, dude. But yeah, moving on to Machine Gun Kelly. Now I'm just gonna keep it a buck here. I don't like his rap. When he started doing this, like, I was hooked. Like the pop punk, I was here for it. This was technically like, I guess this was my first introduction to pop punk as a genre, because I had been so like blind to music. I didn't listen to a ton of pop punk, or at least I didn't think I did. I don't think I did really. I think pop punk, like, this was my first introduction, but every song in here, well, I think not every song, but most songs in here are really good. Yeah, there's so many good ones on here, but like this, it being my first introduction to pop punk, and I know that's not what Machine Gun Kelly mainly did, it was really good. And I think from a Twitch streamer, I had found out that he was a rapper. I did look him up, and I'm like, I don't listen to rap. I mean, until NF, but like at the time I didn't listen to rap, and I was just like, no. But when he did the pop punk thing, I was like, I had listened to The Word Alive. I had listened to Our Last Night. This was a new genre that I hadn't discovered, because I had discovered like metal, hard rock, all that sort of stuff. Not all of it, but I had known the genres. That I was kind of like blown away. I'm like, what is this? Are we gaming? Like I was hooked. So yeah, just a phenomenal album. And then his new one that came out, his last pop punk album, because apparently he's going back to rap, but to me it's like half of what this is. Like, it's half good. It's not a great album. There's good songs on there, but it ain't it. It's not the best. Like, it's like half of what Tickets to My Downfall was in terms of quality and how good the album was in total. But yeah, definitely I'm gonna miss his pop punk stuff if he's done with it, but this was definitely my introduction to it. Moving on to Eden, No Future. So this is the last Eden album that I think I'll be listening to personally. There's a lot of good singles on this. Like, I think my favorites are like Love, Death, Distraction, Good Morning, How to Sleep, Just Saying, ISO Hell, 2020, and then Untitled. There's so many good songs on this, and I think for me it's his last good album. I don't like he did drop one in 2022, but I didn't like it. It felt too detached from, like, even this had like guitar driven, like acoustic guitar driven stuff in it, and it felt so that the album he dropped in 2022 felt so detached from what he did with his previous projects. So safe to say I'm not gonna listen to any more of his future work, but I think this was his like last good album to me anyway. But yeah, moving on to Mako. Once again, we haven't gone back to him in a little bit, but he did drop an album called Fable, and I really liked all the stuff on it. It's very different from his other album. Very different. Like, I would say it's in that chill step realm, but he's got really good vocals on this, and I did like the album a lot to put it on here because it was just it was solid. It was really good. It was super, super good. Like, I think Chameleon, Breathe, Murder, again, like, there a lot of good songs on this, but yeah, moving on. Puppet. So, I've been wanting to talk about Puppet for a bit. So Puppet was actually how I discovered Eden. They both were on a track together. I think twice they were on a track together, when Eden was referred to as the Eden Project. I discovered Eden through Puppet and Puppet through Eden, etc. But Puppet was on a label called Monstercat. Monstercat was how I was discovering EDM music all over the place. Like, it was everywhere. Like, that's how I found all my EDM music. That's why I think for a genre during that time, that's what I loved the most was EDM, because that's all I listened to. And it was like Monstercat was my way to find this music. I don't go through Monstercat now because they're kind of garbage and they don't release anything good on their label. So, but yeah, Puppet was like the last good, I guess. You know how like it's nowadays to find a good artist, it's a needle in a haystack. Puppet was that at the time because he released a track, I believe in 2014, and I swear to God, like, I was listening to it on SoundCloud in class in high school, and it slapped. I was like, this is, because there was another artist that isn't in here, but I don't think he's ever dropped an album. If he did, it wasn't my favorite, but Tristam. When I listened to Puppet, I was like, this is the next Tristam. Like, I loved the sound. That was it, and I was hooked. Like, I was supporting this guy no matter what. He did, like, there was a song, I think it was called, it's not Living in It, Here Again. Here Again was, like, the weirdest sounding track I had heard, but I loved it because I had heard at the time when it came out, it was 2017, I think, or 2016. It was probably 2017. He dropped that track, and I listened, I think at the time I had listened to Our Last Night, Therefore Tomorrow. I had listened to like all these like hard rock influences, and even Normandy. When I heard the song, I was like, there's guitars, there's drums in here. And I had heard those, and I was like, what is he doing? Like, and it was crazy. So Puppet, in his own words, was like combining EDM, like electronic music, with punk music. And I thought that was like a crazy thing that no one had ever done. Illenium, funny enough, an artist we had been talking about in here, started doing that as well. But after Puppet had done it, and I just thought it was the craziest sound I ever heard of because no one's ever done it. At least I don't think so. Not in this way, but this whole album, is this really a whole album? Is it only 9 songs? No, is it? It is. Okay. That's fine, though. But yeah, so this album came out, and I was just blown away because it was all that electronic, punk-driven music, and it was just so good. Like, this entire album's a banger from start to finish. There's nothing bad about it. And even now, like, Puppet's dropped more music, which in another video we will get to. But yeah, just a complete diamond in the rough, you know? Like, it's crazy how good his stuff is, and he's an underrated artist for sure. Like, he needs more attention, more exposure than he gets because he's doing a sound that no one else can do. Even Illenium can't perfect this sound, I don't think, in my opinion. But that's Puppet. He's a super talented EDM artist. Well, I wouldn't even call him EDM. I'd say like electronic punk. I think, what was it called? Like Punktronic, or like it was Punktronic or something else. electropunk, something like that. There was a term I described for it, and I can't remember it now. But the last album we are going to get into is blackbear. So I don't listen to blackbear at all, even like his new stuff. Everything on this album is catchy. Like, it's just so good. Everything on this album's great. I don't really know. I think blackbear's like a... It's hard to pin him down in a genre. I think he's like pop. He's a pop artist, but he's also like, it's like pop chill. I don't know how to describe his genre. He's just really chill, but he's basically a pop artist. Maybe like pop / rap, I guess. It's hard to describe. It's a very hard genre to pin down, but the entire album's great from start to finish. It's good. Like, every song is great. There's nothing bad about the album at all. But this is the end of my... This is where it ends. Kind of like where I stopped, like, discovering music on my own. And that's why it's called fantasy, because it was a fantasy. Like, this is all... It felt like I was living in a fantasy when I discovered these artists, because now I'm discovering so much more music thanks to a channel which I will mention in the next video when we discuss reality. And yeah. But it's pretty wild that I discovered all this music on my own, and it's definitely how I got into a lot of the genres and artists and bands that I get into nowadays. But yeah, that's the video for today. Thank you guys for watching. If you did, I appreciate it a ton, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!